I'm Jennifer Sanassi. You're watching News 24 Live. Author R.W. Johnson is joining me in studio. Now, he's just released his book, How Long Will South Africa Survive? And we're going to pick his brain and find out what his answer to that question is today. Hello.
Hello there.
Thank you so much for joining me. Now, your book is entitled, How Long Will South Africa Survive? The Looming Crisis. Talk us through that title. I know, do you set out to answer that? Did you set out to answer that when you sat down?
Well, I'm more really focusing on the fact that I think we're heading for a regime crisis and a regime change. Look, the country will continue to exist, although there are some scenarios in which it might subdivide. But the point is, I wrote my first book in 1977 with exactly the same title, which was then really all about the crisis of the white regime and how long could that possibly go on. I feel that we're in a somewhat similar situation again now, where we have a regime which is, I think, facing a crisis and change before very long.
Talk us through some of the similarities that you see now. You said your first book came out in 1977. Some of the similarities and contributing factors to the regime crisis that you predict is coming our way.
Well, the key point really is that there is a sort of iron law of South African history, which is that we have, since the discovery of deep-level gold mining, been dependent on an inward flow investment. We simply have to have it. And if that stops at any point for any length of time, there will be a regime change. No government can really survive that. Now, in a sense, you see, that did stop in 1985, finally. It's been running down. But with the bank cancellation, the loan cancellation of that period, basically what happened in 1990 when de Klerk announced the change was really ringing up the change already in the till after 1985. I mean, it was that cessation of investment which really did it. Now, we are moving in the same direction, and I think that before very long we will face probably a debt trap and then an IMF bailout. And the conditions of the IMF bailout will in effect change the whole political environment.
Now, you went to school with Jacob Zuma at one point.
No, I didn't go to school with Jacob Zuma. At a very early stage, I was once teaching, if you can call it that, I was teaching Marxism-Leninism, would you believe it, just off Grey Street in Durban, as a young Marxist myself at that time. It was about 1962, and he was one of the people in the class. That's all, but it wasn't at school. And
it wasn't at school, no. You were
There were no multiracial schools in that era.
This is true. Now, tell me about the Jacob Zuma you experienced at that time.
Oh, look, I hardly met him.
Okay.
It was only when I met him again many years later, which was mainly, I met him in the period of around about 2006, 7, 8, that we reminisced together and realized that that had been what had happened. We knew the same people from that era and so on, you know, both of whom we had fond memories of. He's a very genial chap, I must say, and very warm. So a pleasant person to meet.
Now, in the chapter about the rise of Zuma, you touch on the tribal divisions within the ANC. You even say that Mandela was aware of the tribal divisions in the party. Now, with the recent xenophobia and reported attacks on even other African ethnicities, do you think that the Zulu nation identifies itself as the power group of South Africa?
Oh, I think there's a self-consciousness of that, and you may have noticed that during the xenophobic riots, both this time and previously, people would be stopped on the street, and the test of whether you were South African was, can you speak Zulu? Not Xhosa. And that tells a story. But I think the point really that I'm making in the book is that the longer that Mbeki went on in power, the more his cabinet was Xhosa dominated. And then when he went for Zuma and tried basically to put him in jail, what could Zuma fall back on except, of course, his own group and whatever he could find. I mean, he was in a desperate situation. And I think it began there, really, that mobilization of a sort of Zulu bloc.